What is fear? What causes fear? Fear, a strong and complex emotion, never exists in isolation. We often wonder, how can we fear something when it has never been a part of our personal experience? The truth is, fear is always linked to what we know. For example, the fear of death is not actually a fear of death in general, but a fear of losing what we have become familiar and cherished. This makes us question the true nature of fear. Is it really a fear of the unknown, or actually a fear of losing the known? Finding freedom from fear. The journey to overcome fear is not about completely eliminating this feeling from our lives, but about understanding and facing it. The question is not just how to not fear death, but how to accept and overcome the fear of losing family, reputation, oneself, possessions, and material desires. This requires a deep understanding of the origins of fear and how we link events in our lives to potential losses. Through this, we can truly find freedom from the fears of the known, opening up a richer and more meaningful life. Chapter 1: The Deep Origins of Fear. Many believe that fear originates from the conscience. However, our conscience is actually shaped by the conditions and norms we have experienced, meaning it too is just a reflection of the known. Our understanding of the world around us, about ourselves, is essentially just a system of viewpoints and ideas built from experience and memory. These ideas, memories of past experiences, are the foundation of our reaction to new challenges. Fear and loss. Fear, at its core, is not just the fear of death or material loss, but also the fear of losing oneself, the ideas and concepts we hold dear. It also includes the fear of not truly understanding who we are, fear of being lost in society, and fear of suffering from loss. These fears ultimately relate to loss, the loss of what we have known, become familiar with, and have defined as our identity. This indicates that fear is not an irrational instant reaction, but a response grounded in the consciousness of the known and what we consider important to ourselves. Overcoming fear requires a journey of deep self-understanding about what is truly important to us and how we build life's meaning through experiences and relationships. Chapter 2: Facing Suffering. The fear of suffering is one of the most common experiences of humanity. Physical pain is a natural physiological response, but psychological suffering is much more complex. It often stems from our excessive attachment to things that bring happiness or satisfaction, and therefore, we become fearful of loss. We accumulate, whether material or mental, as a means to shield ourselves from the feeling of suffering, creating a sort of barricade between ourselves and the possibility of facing turmoil or loss. Accumulation and the search for peace. We often equate accumulation, not just of wealth but also of beliefs and ideas, with the search for peace and happiness. However, at the heart of this lies a contradiction. The process of accumulation itself is the source of psychological suffering. Trying to protect what we have gathered to avoid suffering ultimately becomes the way we create more suffering. This realization opens up a question. Can we find freedom from suffering through deep understanding and acceptance, rather than trying to shield ourselves from it? Beliefs and understanding. Understanding can help us avoid suffering, just as medical knowledge helps us prevent physical pain. Psychological beliefs serve a similar role. We cling to them as a means to avoid suffering. However, it is crucial to recognize that while we may discard some traditional beliefs because they no longer align with our personal experience, all beliefs, old or new, are essentially the same. They are tools to combat suffering. Realizing this opens up the possibility of accepting suffering as an inseparable part of life, rather than trying to evade it through accumulation. In acceptance, there can be liberation, a step towards seeking profound meaning and true happiness without relying on material or mental accumulation. Chapter 3. Accumulation, the cycle of suffering and fear. Fear, hidden deep within our minds, is often nurtured by the accumulation of what we have known and cherished. This creates an endless cycle. We accumulate out of fear of loss, but it is this very accumulation that becomes the source of fear. The fear of the unknown, in reality, is the fear of losing what we have accumulated. Every effort to avoid being at a loss only leads us into the cycle of suffering and fear. We often seek safety in material possessions or psychological beliefs, but this is precisely the source of contradiction and conflict. For example, the need for material security can lead us to establish an authoritarian regime which requires military forces and ultimately can lead to war, destroying the very safety we desired. On the other hand, accumulating beliefs to avoid suffering also creates suspicion and psychological suffering. Breaking the pattern. The journey towards a life free from fear requires us to break the patterns. But how can we do this without creating new fears? The answer lies in not acting based on the desire to break the pattern. When we simply observe the frame without trying to change it through action, we realize that it is our own mind, with its habits and beliefs, that creates the pattern. This leads to a profound realization. Any effort of the mind to eliminate fear not only fails but also increases fear. Therefore, the realization that the mind itself is the source of fear and suffering opens up a new path, not to eliminate fear through action, but through understanding and acceptance. This not only reduces fear but also opens up the possibility of living a life free from patterns, more free and authentic. Chapter 4. The very escape is fear. Fear often seeks escape routes, and one of the most common methods is assimilation with something greater, the nation, religion, or even our loved ones. Through this action, we temporarily forget ourselves, finding a momentary escape from the self filled with suffering and fear. Assimilation, however, is just a way to forget oneself, a form of escape from the true self. Morality and self-forgetting. Another example of escaping the self is through the pursuit of morality. People often think that by becoming moral, they can escape the self. But in reality, the more we try to become moral, the more we empower the self. Deep assimilation into any substitute only increases the readiness to struggle, even to die, because fear always lurks behind. Acceptance and understanding. Fear, ultimately, is the non-acceptance of what is, directing one's focus rightly towards a present reality. That is, fantasizing, focusing on what is not, that is, what must be, what should be, what will be. This is misdirection, leading to contradiction, conflict, and distress. When we fully understand and accept what is, there is no longer a feeling of needing to accept in the sense of trying or striving. Recognizing and accepting oneself fully, without defense, criticism, or restraint, is the first step to overcoming the self. We can only achieve understanding and freedom from the self when we look at it wholly, as a totality. Understanding the entire process that arises from desire as an expression of thought, without judgment or restriction, opens the possibility of overcoming the constraints of the self. A state of the body and mind that is unobstructed, not hindered, brings a natural joy and delight. When the self no longer exists, we can experience true freedom and happiness.